Hello and welcome to the 23rd Annual Garden State Film Festival. My name is Emily DeSimone, and here with me today I have Edward Tyndall as the director for the documentary short Fierro. Edward, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you today?
Great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on with you all and to be having the film screen in New Jersey. It's exciting.
Yes, I understand that you are here from you're tuning in from Colorado.
Yes.
So it's
Denver, Colorado.
colder there than it is here in Philadelphia.
It is. It is. It's
Yeah.
pretty cold. That's going to warm up. So that's the good news.
I'm waiting. With that, why don't you tell our live viewers a bit about your documentary?
Sure. The film is called Fierro, and it is about Richard Fierro, who is the Army veteran that stopped the Club Q mass shooter in Colorado Springs. It's really a portrait of Rich's life and who he is, and what led up to his heroic actions on that day.
What inspired you to get involved with this documentary?
I was had moved to Denver not that long ago from South Texas, and I'm always just looking for documentary subjects. And then, unfortunately, this mass shooting happened. I saw Rich on the national news right after it had happened, and I was an Army veteran who had done served in the Guard as like a tank platoon leader, and Rich was a veteran, and he just really, he just connected to me. His story did when he was talking, and so I just reached out to him, and he was gracious enough to let me have access to his story and to really open up, and it just kind of went from there.
Well, thank you for your service. I come from a military household myself,
Right.
so I do really appreciate your service. With that said, what is your background in directing and filmmaking, if I may ask?
Yeah, so I've been making films for, I don't know, I think over 20 years, and the first film I made was a historical documentary, a PBS film called Confederate Goliath, about a Civil War battle.
Mhm.
And after that, I went to film school shortly after that, and then I kept making documentaries. I went to the University of North Carolina at Greensboro and got an MFA in production, and then just kept making films. And so this is, I don't know what number film this is, but it's our most recent film, and we're proud of it.
Well, I feel very honored to have it in our festival this year. With that, so it sounds obviously that you have a bit of an extensive background in this. So what would you say this filming process was like, and how is it different than the work that you've done before?
Yeah, I mean, this was a little bit more controlled than some of the documentaries. Our documentary before this was a film called Heartbreak Country that was about migrant deaths on the U.S. Mexico border. So a lot of that was kind of volatile, and we were out like in the field filming, and a lot of it was beyond our control. But because this was a story that had already happened to Rich, we were able to bring him into a more controlled studio setting, and then shoot the interview and then cut the film based on that. So we had a little bit more control over what was going on in terms of how we approached it from a production standpoint, which was nice, and a little bit different than some of our other films.
So, I mean, you said that you saw Rich on the news, and I guess you reached out to him, but how did you come to bring together your cast and crew?
So I work with the same few people quite often on film. So I work with the same composer on like the last 7 films, I think, is an amazing composer named Jason Wells, who's out in Portland, Oregon. So that was just kind of a natural. I mean, I knew that Jason would be working on this. And then we had 2 other cinematographers. One of them, actually, Nick Manley, the primary cinematographer, is from New Jersey originally. And then our other cinematographer, Trevor Merchant, is here in Denver. So we brought Nick in actually for the main interview process and a lot of the kind of illustrative footage, and then Trevor filmed a lot of stuff also, but in a kind of more secondary capacity. And that was it, really. That's the majority of the crew, except for the audio that we had on the day of the interview.
Okay. So you basically you've already, in your time in the industry, knew exactly who it was you were going to be reaching out to, and you like speed dial basically is what it seems.
Yeah, and
Way.
yeah, that's true. And so like I tend to work with the same people over and
Yeah.
over again, especially the composer, which like Jason is really,
Mhm.
his music is really important to the films that I do. If you see the film, I think you'll
Yeah.
recognize the kind of the power of the score and what it adds to the film itself. But yeah, I tend to work with, once you kind of establish relationships, you sort of work with people
Exactly.
over and over again, I think.
Yeah, when you find a good thing, why change it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You said that you've reached out to Fierro. How exactly did you do that?
I sent him a message through Facebook Messenger, actually.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know, like at the time, I mean, this went on for a while, but Rich was really like getting national news coverage for what he did. So
Mhm.
he was like at the State of the Union address, and the New York Times had done articles about him, and so it was just sort of
Shot in the dark.
yeah, just I just reached out to him, and I just said, like, that I had a military background and that I appreciated hearing him speak and was really interested in telling his story. And he got back in touch with me pretty quickly, and
Mhm.
set up just an initial meeting here in Denver, because he's in Colorado Springs, which is not that far away. So we
Right.
just drove up and we just had like breakfast and stuff and talked, and then we did the interview. It was like a 5 or 6 hour interview, I think. And then after we filmed the interview, we went down to Colorado Springs and filmed a bunch of additional stuff after that.
Okay. You filmed a bunch of. I'm sorry. Did you say
Yeah, just additional things to
audition?
illustrate the
Yeah.
interview itself. So he owns him and his wife Jess own a brewery called Atravita in Colorado Springs, and that's kind of part of the story. So we filmed there, and then he received the from the Congressional Medal of Honor Society. It's the
Yeah.
Civilian Award for Valor in DC. So we
Mhm.
went out and filmed that, and several other things like that.
So I mean, like with this, what is it that you hope your audience will take away from this documentary?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Rich in the film says something that really struck me, which is he says, these kind of incidents aren't about the person with the gun, but they're about the people on the other side of the gun. And
Mhm.
I think that, he has this message that people, can't be paralyzed in fear, and that
Yeah.
people that perpetuate these sort of incidents are trying to in, to scare people even beyond the incident itself.
Mhm.
And so I don't know. I mean, I think for me, the message of the film is like, I just wanted to explore, like, who is the kind of person that when something like this happens, runs towards the shooter and tries to do something about it, which is kind of a rare reaction.
Mhm.
And so I think if you watch the film, you get a sense of who Rich is and his life experiences that led up to that moment. I mean, all of his tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and just who he is as a person, and that to me was really uplifting and a positive in an incident that was so terrible. So
Do you have a favorite part of this process for you? And what would you say perhaps was either your least favorite or the most challenging part of this whole experience?
yeah, for me, like as a documentary filmmaker, I think the most important thing for me is how being able to explore different issues in complexity and detail can change my perspective. So my
Mhm.
perspective has been changed about a lot of preconceptions that I held about a lot of different things. And then I go into making a film, and it changes the way I think about it, and I realize how much more gray area there is with stuff, and how much more nuance there is with everything. So for me, that's the best part of making documentary films. I think the challenge is, like, choosing subjects that you feel you can represent in a positive way. Um, finding someone where, like, the cinematic truth is also positive. So I try to pick subjects that allow me to do that. But then, like, it can be very stressful, like telling someone's story, especially a story that's so profoundly important to their life, is like this incident that for Rich and his family. Doing that justice is always kind of scary to me, and I think that's the hard part, is really just trying to get that right.
Would you say that you I mean, in the time that you've done this, what has inspired you as a director, like works wise, or, you know, other um, directors' work, would you say inspires the work that you do?
Yeah, I mean, I really am a huge fan of Errol Morris. I love Errol Morris's like interview-driven films. The way Errol Morris's
Mhm.
techniques can create really cinematic and emotional experiences from a person sitting in a chair talking about something. I was also really like intrigued by the movie Harlan County, USA. I don't know if you've ever seen it,
Mhm.
but like the really documentary that was about uh, coal workers unionizing in Harlan County, and just the way that film was made, and the connection between the filmmaker and the subject was really moving to me. And so I try to combine those two styles, like the interview component, but then also going into the field and capturing things as they happen. So Fear is a little bit different than that, but our film before that, Heartbreak Country, was very much kind of a combination of those two techniques. And I'm always, just I think, trying to watch as many films as possible. That's what's so great about the film festivals and the
Mhm.
circuit, and what you all are doing is just being able to showcase films that might not have an avenue for distribution and audience connection
Yeah.
is great for filmmakers because we get to see work that we might not see otherwise.
It seems like you, I mean, truly are someone that has, with your extensive history in this industry, um, I really value your advice that you can give to filmmakers that perhaps are just getting started in this line of work with documentaries. So, do you have any advice that you would like to give to anyone that's just starting out?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that like the great thing about the documentary space is that you can make an incredible film with really, really, really limited budgets and limited resources. And really, you can do it with a single filmmaker.
Mhm.
And I think that like in narrative or fictional filmmaking, there's so many obstacles to young filmmakers. It doesn't mean they can't make a great film, but I thoroughly believe you can make an Academy Award winning short documentary with just one person and a camera. So I think that people have to not be afraid. It's so inexpensive to take risks and experiment and just go out there and try to make a documentary. People should just do it, and that's how you learn. And I think you should pick subjects that are really feel important to you and that you're passionate about, but also be willing to follow the story kind of where it leads, even if that's completely flies in the face of your what you expect to happen.
Mhm.
And to be able to have your mind change. I think that's the one of the most powerful things that can happen for a filmmaker in making a film is not only reaching an audience and giving them a new perspective, but also seeing the world through different eyes yourself. So
Thank you so much, Edward, for like joining me today because I mean, talking with you, it's so easy. It's very clear that you have such a deep understanding of this industry. And so I do feel like in speaking with you, I am learning something very valuable from
oh,
you.
thanks.
So thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining me today. Fierro will be screening at the Berkeley Continental on Sunday, March 30th at 3 p.m. Edward, again, I hope that it gets warmer out there in
Thanks.
Denver. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too, and thank you for everything you're doing to bring these films to audiences. That's greatly appreciated on our part.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right.
Bye, guys.